Hi guys, it's Janae and welcome back to my channel, and today I'm continuing my read along for Scum Villian Self-Saving System, and I am a little bit weary because we're so close to the end, so I just feel like everything is gonna go downhill very quickly, even though it's kind of already started, so yeah. But anyway, hi. So I'm hoping, if all goes well, that we'll do about 40 chapters today and 40 chapters tomorrow, not tomorrow, Thursday, and then we're done with volume 4. And hi, from there, I think I'm planning at the moment to finish up volume 2 of Modu because we kind of stopped in the middle of that one, and then come back to volume 4 of this, and then we'll be diving headfirst into the rest of Urha with minimal breaks for the rest of Modu as we go along. But yeah, I just want to finish this up as relatively quickly as possible because it's been a long time coming, and then try and pace out Urha so I don't feel like I have to wait too long between the different volumes, but also so we have enough time to emotionally recuperate after every single volume of Urha, because I think I'm gonna need it. Um, but anyway, if you're new here, hi, I'm Janae, and we're gonna be doing, as I said, about 40 chapters, 40 pages of Scum Villian tonight. We're gonna take a 10-minute break on the hour, or more or less on the hour. I have tea and water here with me, and I'm gonna give 2 more minutes for anyone who wants to join, who's only now getting the notification. And that's about it. I hope everyone's weekend was good. Mine was amazing. I got to just have a very relaxed weekend with a friend. And I haven't had one of those for a very long time, so yeah. While we wait, I have it open on page 273 for anyone who wants to follow along with their own physical copy. It is chapter 21. Okay, I think we can basically get started. Chapter 21. Always Together. With lightning speed, Xiang Jingque grabbed a handful of leaves from a vine. He just charged into the cave with the rest when he heard a voice. "So we meet again, Peak Lord Shin." At the back of the cave, Shin Mo had been stabbed into a crack within the rocks. The black chi and purple miasma they'd seen were pouring from its blade. Tianlangjun sat atop a green stone, and not too far in front of it stood Shang Qinghua. Sunlight from outside spilled into the cave, illuminating part of Tianlangjun's body. Right away, someone gasped, drawing in a mouthful of cold air. Shen Jingque finally understood why Shang Qinghua had screamed so terribly seconds ago. Though the smile on Tianlangjun's face was as elegant as ever, the right half of his face was nearly entirely the dark purple of necrosis, making his smile tremendously unnerving. His left sleeve hung limp, completely empty. It seemed that arm had kept falling off could no longer be reattached. This dilapidated, near decimated appearance was far from the final boss Shen Qingque had envisioned. He couldn't help but pay attention to Luo Binghe. But on that face there was only a tranquility that seemed almost wooden, and Shen Qingque couldn't tell what it meant. Tianlanjun tilted his head. "Less people than I would have thought. I expected it to be like that time on Bailu Mountain, with hundreds of masters all coming at me together." Wu Wang humphed. "Look at that ghastly appearance of yours. Not to mention you're without a single underling. Who would need that many people?" "I indeed have not a single underling, but I do have a nephew." The words had barely left Tianlanjun's mouth when a green shadow flashed through the cave. Zhuge silently placed himself in front of Tianlanjun, shielding him. For some reason, this master and servant both gave off an air of wretchedness. Being unsuited to demonic energy, Tianlanjun's dew mushroom body had deteriorated to the point of falling apart. That was understandable. However, Zhuge eyes too had yellowed, and his neck, cheeks, forehead, arms, just about any part of him that was exposed, now crawled with scales. The result was sinister and frightening, as well as deeply reminiscent of his half-man, half-snake form back in the cave of Bailu Forest. Piclo Chen, he rasped. Yes, it's me, said Chen Jingqie. How did you end up like this? And what connections do you have with this person this time, Shidi? Ye Qingyan asked, composed as ever. Fair question. I remember you. After thinking for a bit, he said with conviction, back then, the Huanhua Palace's old geezer wanted you to help him with the ambush, but you ignored him. So you're the current sect leader of Tangchong Mountain. Not bad. Your distinguished self's memory is also quite good. Tianlanjun smiled and smiled, then gave a sigh. If you were also trapped in a pitch black darkness. Okay, it says pitch black, but I'm assuming it meant pitch black darkness. For over 10 years, unable to glimpse the sky or sun, with nothing to pass the days but for reminiscing over past affairs, your memory would be quite good as well. This time, no one answered him. Yu Qingyan gripped Shin Su, then struck at Tianlanjun with a sheathed sword. Tianlanjun barely managed to evade. With a rumbling roar, half the cave wall behind him collapsed right then and there, opening up a large hole. Outside there was nothing but sky, while swirling sand and loose rocks plummeted into the depths below. Cold air streamed into the cave, as fine as snowflakes drifting in a slow dance, dazzling the eyes. From the frozen river, 300 meters below, one could faintly hear wave after wave of beastly howls and the sounds of slaughter. The first wave of southern border demons had already landed. Let me guess, Baijiang Peak is already fighting as the vanguard. Am I correct? Tianlanjun asked. The dozens of people on the scene dispersed, then rushed him from various angles. At the front of the assault, Wu Wang swung his staff with fierce vigor, his movement vicious. Though Xun Shu slowly forced Zhuge back, he still dutifully drew the brunt of the attacks. Tianlanjun continued to sit upon his stone, completely at ease. I remember that you also waited until the last moment to draw your sword that day, he said to Ye Qingyan. Doing the same now? This is giving me a lot of red flags. Ye Qingyan didn't answer. He was about to land a palm strike on Zhuge when another sect leader stole in front of him and attacked first. Zhuge neither avoided nor retreated, taking the blow head on. But it was that sect leader who screamed instead. Chen Jingqi's pupils contracted. Don't touch him, he yelled. His entire body is poisonous. A little bit late, Chen Jingqi. In the chaos of battle, several people were poisoned, while several others were sent flying out of the cave by the explosive surges of demonic chi and spiritual energy. They careened out into the high altitude, plummeting downward before they managed to flip themselves back onto their swords, thereby regaining their footing. Xiang Jinghua stealthily snuck towards Shen Jingqi's location. Zhuge was overwhelmed by the excitement of battle, so when he glimpsed a suspicious figure creeping away, he flung 2 green snakes at them without thinking. Shen Jingqi saw all this clearly. He flipped his hand over, ready to send out a leaf to save Great Master Airplane's life, when the 2 snakes were suddenly pierced in mid-air by a razor-sharp shard of ice. Ooh. Hi. Beijun appeared within the circle of battle like a wraith. He picked up Shang Qinghua, tossed him into Shen Qingqi's direction like one would a little chick, then pummeled Zhujilang with his fists. Okay. In the ensuing 10 seconds, Shen Qingqi witnessed what a real beatdown looked like. With Zhujiang under Mo Beijun's crazed and relentless assault, the attack besieging Tianlanjin grew suddenly fiercer. Though Tianlanjin was missing an arm and was only one against many, his poise wasn't at all diminished. Huh, why not you? What? Why must you be like this again? Ganging up on one person, don't you think that victory won by unequal advantage is immoral? A sect leader attacked him. Against a malicious and demonic monster like you, who wishes to see the world burn, what morals are there to speak of? I don't know if I quite agree with that, because it's okaying a lot of potential violence, but I get where it's coming from. In the next moment, that sect leader's skull split open like a garlic clove, oh joy, rent into multiple chunks. Tianlangjin pulled his hand back and smiled. Honestly, in the beginning I had no malice, nor did I find fun in the idea of the world burning. I only occasionally crossed the border, coming here to sing songs or read books. It was quite nice. However, since I've already been in residence beneath Bailu Mountain for so many years, if I don't follow through on something along the lines of your thoughts, I truly find my circumstances a bit too unjustified. Ye Qingyan flicked his finger. Shen Shu sprung 3 inches from its sheath, its spiritual energy seething. The bones of Tianlanjin's body cracked and popped almost like his joints had been dislocated. He made a sound of surprise. As expected of a sect leader, not bad. Your master was quite mediocre, but had quite the eye for disciples and successors. Then Tianlanjin reached out and grabbed Shen Su's blade directly, as if he couldn't feel a thing. But why not draw it all the way? He said with a smile. You can't do anything to me with only this much. Ye Qingyan's gaze hardened, and Shen Su jumped another half-inch from his sheath. I'm just warning you guys, if Ye Qingyan dies, which I strongly suspect he's going to before the end of this volume, I'm gonna be very mad. He can't do anything to you, Luo Binghe said, sudden and cold. But what about me? Tianlanjin's smile hadn't faded when, suddenly, a stream of powerful demonic chi slammed into him like a blow from an axe. His remaining arm was blasted off from his body, then whipped outside the cave by a gust of wind, hurtling down and away from Mai Gul Ridge. Ugh! Yeah. Luo Binghe was finally taking action. In this father versus son rematch, it was finally Tianlanjin's turn to be powerless to fight back. Luo Binghe's eyes were blindingly crimson, his face taut, and his attacks were ruthless, without the slightest hint of mercy. With both Tianlanjin's arms severed, he even began to look like he had been overwhelmed and backed into a corner. Meanwhile, after much difficulty, Zhujiang had managed to break free from Mo Beijun. His face was a mess of blood and gore, but when he saw his master in trouble, he rushed straight over, like all the bloodlust had gone from his head. To his head. Right at the moment, Tianlanjin's demonic chi swept over Wu Wang, sending him flying as blood sprayed from his mouth, and Master Wu Chen ran to catch him. Zhujiang was about to slam into him when Chen Jingque saw the unfortunate turn and swept in front of Wu Chen, shielding him. As soon as Zhujiang saw Shen Jingque, a shred of clarity flashed through those bright yellow eyes, and he abruptly braked, disrupting his balance as he staggered and nearly fell. Just as he was about to detour around Shen Jingque to assist Tianlanjin, a beam of white light shot swiftly towards them. Zhujiang's back slammed heavily into the cave wall. He'd been impaled through the chest against the rocks, the long, slender blade buried in his chest belonging to uh, Xiang. Xiang. Is that Liu Qingge's only real disciple? Or I'm probably misidentifying. Shen Jingqiu turned his head to see Luo Binghe slowly withdrawing his hand. Oh, no, that's the sword's name. Okay, my bad. Shen Jingqiu turned his head to see Luo Binghe slowly withdraw his hand. Tianlan Jun serenely stood about 6 meters behind him. After a short while, he gracefully fell to the ground. Silence. It was over? That easily? No way. I don't believe that for a second. Part of Shen Jingqiu couldn't believe it. He'd barely done anything and it was over. He patted Shang Qinghua's shoulder. Didn't you say that Tianlan Jun would be hard? Shang Qinghua was still in a state of shock. He is hard. Please tell me he's not meaning it like the physical reaction type of. If you guys are catching my drift. Is victory logical? No matter how hard the boss is, he shouldn't think about flaunting his power in front of the protagonist. Isn't that the widely accepted logic? The two of them looked around. They'd come with dozens of people with full HP bars, and now barely 2 or 3 were still standing. Shen Jingqiu then looked at the 2 individuals who he'd previously regarded as the super hard final boss team. One was impaled against the wall and soaked in fresh blood, while the other lay flat on the ground. Together they made a great match for descriptions like trampled and tattered doll and a puppet with its strings cut. Wow, really calling out all the writers here because I think those are quite common descriptors. He felt not the slightest bit of exhilaration one usually got from beating the final boss. The more he looked, the more he felt that it was basically the same as bullying the sick and elderly, or shamelessly ganging up on victims using strength in numbers. And they'd indeed ganged up on these 2. But who could have known that this would be the result? The boss's strength was way too far below what he'd imagined. Don't count yourselves lucky just yet. Luo Binghe turned, expression tranquil and without a drop of blood on him. Shall we kill him? I feel terrible saying this, but it's probably better that way. He was referring to Tianlan Jun. When Zhujiang heard this, he grabbed Jing Yang's blade, struggling to pull it out. A great deal of the scales on his neck had been scraped off in the battle. Ooh. As he extricated himself now, blood flowed forth from his body in streams. Ever since Shen Jingqiu had learned of Gong Xiao's death at Zhujilang's hands, a knot had existed in his heart. But this image was too unbearable. It was difficult not to feel sympathy. Though Shen Jingqiu had been messed with countless times by his bizarre methods of repayment, Zhujilang had never shown him any malice. Shen Jingqiu sighed. Look at the state you're in. Why let yourself suffer so? Zhujilang coughed up a mouthful of foamy blood and rasped. The state I'm in? He smiled bitterly. What if I said that my appearance on Bai Lo Mountain was my actual true form? What would you think then, immortal Master Shen? It was like a bolt of lightning had struck Shen Jingqiu's forehead. What? So the slithering snake man from Bailu Forest, that was Zhujilang's original form? I'm not that surprised by that, I kind of assumed that was the case. Zhujilang gasped for breath. My bloodline is lowly, all because my father was a simple-minded giant snake. I had this half-man, half-snake appearance from the moment my mother gave birth to me. Until I was 15, I was always hated and discarded, or insulted and driven away. If not for my lord, who helped me take a man's form, even guided and supported me, I would have spent my entire life as a monster that could only wriggle on the ground. He gritted his teeth. My lord gave me my first chance to become a person, and Immortal Master Shin gave me my second. Perhaps to both of you, it was only a small thing, no more effort than lifting a finger. But to me, those were favors I must repay, even if they cost me 10,000 of lives. And Immortal Master Shin asked me why I let myself suffer. Tell me, how have I suffered? Tennan Jin suddenly sighed. Foolish child, why say so much to him? Though he was on the ground, his pose was still as graceful as ever. That's a hard sell, but okay. If you could remove the half of his face that had deteriorated from demonic chi, he would have looked even more elegant. People always believe that those of different races have different hearts as well. He said leisurely as he stared upward. Even the person dearest to you can deceive you in the blink of an eye. Besides, it was only ever your one-sided desire to repay him. No matter what you say, he won't understand you. He'll only find it troublesome and refuse to comprehend. So why say so much? In a moment, everyone at the scene fell silent. Once a good and colourless young man, Tianlang Jun had joyfully fallen in love. Yet it had been nothing more than a sham. Then, for countless days and nights, he had been sealed beneath a high mountain where there was neither sun nor sky. Who had the right to stop him from resenting them? Who had the right to make him let it go and look on the bright side? Yet Master Wu Chun said, if your distinguished self really possessed no malicious designs back then we are at fault for listening to slander. If so, this calamity today was something we could neither run from nor avoid. Those who sow seeds of evil will reap the rewards, for all will eventually come around. He brought his palms together. But even if it meant ingesting poison, Benefactor Su wanted to see you, so how can you condemn her for deceiving you? Tenlan Jin startled a little, then raised his head. Chen Qingqie was also stunned. He knew that Master Wu Chun would never lie, yet the version of the story he told next was completely different from what the others had known to be true. Back at Jiahua Monastery, said Master Wu Chun, because this one didn't wish to subject Benefactor Su to criticism when she had already passed, and because this one promised to keep it secret, he was unable to speak the truth. The old palace master brought Benefactor Su back to Huanhua Palace by force. She absolutely refused to obey orders, refused to trick you into going to the site of the ambush, where several dozen arrays had been set up in advance. The old palace master only discovered she was pregnant when subjecting her to torture within the water prison. Damn. Okay. Forcibly aborting the fetus would have endangered her life, and on top of that, Benefactor Su was resisting with all her might. So the old palace master gave her a bowl of poison, that poison fatal to the demon race. He told her that as long as she was willing to drink it, he'd let her out to see you. Benefactor Su drank what the old palace master gave her, then left the palace alone. But she didn't realize that change takes but an instant, that the situation was already other than what she thought. The old palace master had switched the site of the attack to Bailu Mountain, where the two of you had met in the past. Tiannan Jin was completely stunned. His body was mangled and bloody, and blood still stained the corner of his mouth. Despite this, he struggled to raise his head, like he wanted to hear more clearly. There was an indiscernible pitifulness to him. Well, I mean, I don't know how to feel about this, but it's good that he's hopefully getting the truth now, regardless of how much I don't necessarily like him. And it does kind of go to show that he wasn't as what do you call it, unfazed by her as he pretended to be. This one met Benefactor Sue on the road to Law Mountain. At that time, it hadn't been long since she drunk the poison. She was covered in blood and it dripped with every step she took. This one listened to the few lines she gasped out and guessed the general situation. Unable to bear deceiving her, he told her that several days before, Tianlanjin had already been sealed for all eternity. Only then did she realize that her master had told her a monstrous lie. Not only the location, but even the time had been false. All of this for the sake of making her drink that poison. In accordance with her pleas, this one helped her avoid the Huanhua Palace disciples who'd come to capture her, then escorted to the Luo River's upper reaches. After that, he never saw any traces of her again. Tianlanjun, Benefactor Su, indeed might not have been a wholly good person. Originally, she stood high as the next Huanhua Palace master, with great expectations upon her. In the beginning, her decision to approach you might not have been made with good intentions. But afterwards, which was it? Did you maliciously bewitch her? Did she set you up and deceive you? Or were both of you simply unable to help your feelings? This man seeing through the nonsense of it all. This one is an outsider, so he can know nothing of your heart. But what he does know, and what he did see, was Benefactor Su refusing to listen to the orders of the master who'd raised her for over a decade. Even when tormented in the water prison, she refused to say anything, refused to trick or harm you. If not, as a last resort, what mother in the world would drink that kind of poison? It wasn't that she didn't care about you, but that she was without alternatives. Yet the world is pitiless, and so you passed each other by. This is actually quite sad. Ooh. Tianlanjun's lips seemed to tremble slightly. A long moment passed. Then he said, "Is that so?" Right after those 3 words, he asked again, "Truly?" "This one swears upon his life that his words contain not a single falsehood," said Master Wu Chen. Tianlanjun turned his head to look at Shen Qingque and Yue Qingyan. As if seeking confirmation, he asked, "Truly?" He didn't even care whether someone was in the know. He was just asking anyone who he could, unable to say anything else. Yue Qingyan silently lowered his head. It was unclear what he thought. Shen Qingque deliberated over it further, then finally gave a slow nod. Perhaps the old palace master originally had no intention of vilifying and harming Tianlanjun, but as he watched his disciple grow closer and closer to him, he must have regretted sending Su Shiyan to approach the demon. He'd allowed her to leave his control and fall in mutual love with Tianlanjun, even conceiving loving her. So the old palace master had made up his mind. He distorted the truth and cherry-picked the details. His orchestration transformed Tianlanjun into a matchless fiend who wanted to overturn the 3 realms. And so he'd brought ruin to so many lives and so many years. The smattering of snowflakes on Tianlanjun's eyelashes trembled with their movement. Then, like all his strength had suddenly left him, he lay down once more. He sighed. "All right. In any case, finally, something less terrible unfolds. I'm still weary right now." Shen Qingque turned his head to look at Lu Binghe. He'd listened from beginning to end, but it was like he'd heard nothing at all, like none of this concerned him. He even let out a light laugh. With the truth out in the open, the knot within Tianlanjun's heart had naturally come undone. But to Lu Binghe, the cruelty of the situation hadn't lessened in the least. Regardless of whether it was because his parents hated him or because they had given up on him, in the end he had been thrown away. Black smoke and purple miasma continued to spew from Shinmore without pause, and the sounds of slaughter from below grew clearer and clearer. Michael Ridge's descent was still ongoing. Just how much distance remained from before they reached the Law River's frozen surface? Yo Yan took several steps towards where Shinmore was embedded in the wall. The situation has thus far unraveled, Shen Qingche said. Bring an end to this, Tianlanjun. If Tianlanjun stopped now, it wouldn't be too late. But if you continue to supply Shinmore with demonic qi, then their only option to prevent the merge would be to kill him. And now that all was said and done, Shen Qingche didn't particularly wish for Tianlanjun to actually die. Um, After all, to end up in this state due to falling in love was really just unfortunate. To demand his life on top of that was what kind of boss is this pitiful? Yet Tianlanjin suddenly let out a stifled laugh, the sound echoing through the cave. Look, Piglo-chan, he said, tilting his head like he found something incredibly funny. As I am, I can't even maintain Zhizhelang's human form anymore. At that moment, Shen Qingche didn't yet realize the meaning within Tianlanjin's words. He only felt something lurch within his heart. AKA someone else is doing it, and the question is who? What do you think? I mean, it could be Great Master Airplane, but that would feel a little bit cheap. Hmm. No, I can't think of anyone else. Okay, we'll just have to read to find out. Um, Having fought with all of you for so long, the toll on this body of mine was no small matter, said Tianlanjin, slow and measured. Who do you think has been sustaining Shinmore and supplying it with demonic qi all this time? His words were neither fast nor slow, but as they entered Shenjichi's ears, each one seemed to plunge him into icy water, and his neck slowly stiffened. You should be telling someone to bring an end to this, yes. Only, that person isn't me. No, it couldn't be. Tianlanjin's arms were broken beyond repair, and Zhijiang was impaled against the stone wall. Master Wu Chen was supporting Wu Wang, whose head bled profusely. Mo Beijun had Chang Qinghua dangling in his hold, and Ye Qingyun stood beside Shen Qingche. The only other person it could possibly be, but I don't even want to think about that, because even though like he can sometimes be ridiculous, I also think he's too good for it. Is Liu Qingge. Only Luo Binghe stood directly opposite Shinmore's position, his head lowered as he leisurely adjusted his sleeves. Luo Binghe, come here, Shen Qingche said solemnly. Luo Binghe shook his head once, only once, but very resolutely. You lied to me again, Shen Qingche said dismissively. Luo Binghe's movements paused, and he asked, Shizun, I said I would help you against Tianlanjin. I can kill him for you right now, and right away, so how can you say I lied to you? Tianlanjin smiled. Letting the enemy go to cover for one's own work, that was quite a good move. But unfortunately, I'm not very useful, so in the end he had to take action himself. I'm gonna leave it for now, even though I'm very disappointed. We'll just keep going. Upon hearing the words letting the enemy go to cover for one's own work, Shen Qingche's heart became increasingly uneasy. Did Luo Binghe purposefully give Shinmo to Tianlanjin? After all, Tianlanjin's dew moon, I always want to say dew moon, dew mushroom body had deteriorated faster with Shinmo in his possession. So even if the sword was given to him, It couldn't have possessed much of a threat to Lo Bing-ho. Perhaps Shinjuku was too disorientated and allowed his thoughts to show on his face, because Lo Bing-ho said sorrowfully, "Shizun, what are you thinking now? He did steal Shinmo. It's just that Shinmo still recognizes me as its master. You said before that you would rather trust me and accept the consequences than assume you can't trust me at all. Why do you again not trust me? I've trusted you many times," Shinjuku said slowly. "Up until just now, I still trusted you." "Is that so?" said Lo Bing-ho. His face twisted into a smile. "But I don't dare trust Shizun anymore." Guys, we're like, what, 50 pages from the end of the volume and they want to throw this spanner at us? That's a bit cruel. That smile was incredibly uncanny. Shenjing Chua sensed something was wrong, so he softened his expression and tone. "What's gotten into you this time?" The moment he softened, Lo Bing-ho suddenly stopped smiling. His appearance was full of sorrow and despair. "Shizun, I've said this before. The times you're with them are really when you're happiest." To begin with, Shenjing Chua had yet to figure out who "them" referred to. Lo Bing-ho slowly paced back and forth before the stone wall where Shinmo was embedded. He laughed in self-mockery. "Every time I asked Shizun to leave with me, you never agreed. Not even once. When you did come, it was because I demanded it by force, not because you were willing. But now, when they ask you to stay, you never hesitate." He looked at Shinjuku. "Shizun, you don't smile often. I love seeing you smile. But whenever I recall that you only smile like that when you're with them, he said very quietly, "it hurts me very, very much." Shinjuku finally understood. "Them" referred to Tangchong Mountain. That day in the bamboo house, Liu Chengge had suddenly opened the windows to investigate, so it really had been because he sensed the hint of murderous intent Lo Bing-ho had let leak while loitering outside, as well as his aura of rage and despair. Instead of leaving, he'd stayed to hear the laughter within the bamboo house, as well as that single of agreement, and he'd engraved all of it within his heart. "That's why you're angry?" said Shinjin Cho. "Angry?" Lo Bing-ho darkly spat out the two words. "I hate." Then, "I hate myself." His pace quickened with his irritation, his hands clasped behind his back. "I hate how useless I am. I hate how I can never keep anyone, how no one has ever chosen me. Even in the cave, everyone in the cave was unable to make any sudden moves. Lo Bing-ho was currently maintaining Shinmo's energy supply, and nobody wanted him to suddenly lash out. "By doing this, you mean to force him to choose between the two?" Jujilang asked. Lo Bing-ho paused and shook his head. "Choose between the two? No, that's not it. I know that if he chooses, Shizun definitely won't pick me, so it's fine if he has no choice to make." "That's not how you do things, Lo Bing-ho. If you want him to resent you for life, that's how you do things." A slight flush infused his stark white face, derived from a kind of strange excitement. "This time I've learnt my lesson. If Tangchung Mountain ceases to exist, everything will be fine, right? That way Shizun will only have me." Master Wu Chun chanted sutras and pressed his palms together. Then he said, "Benefactor Law, you're possessed." Yeah. I'm hoping that's the case because I'm really not liking this side of loving her. Burst into loud, unrestrained laughter. "If you leave him no choice, then of course you can't be abandoned," Master Wu Chun continued. "But how will you deal with Peak Lo Chun's actions and behaviors towards you afterwards? Shizun, if Changing Peak is gone. I can build you another, Lobinghurst said gently. It's fine if you resent me, it's fine if you hate me. I won't make any great demands. If you're unsatisfied, you can hit me, try to kill me. After all, I won't die. As long as you don't leave me. He spoke so earnestly. Truly, I only have this one wish. Wouldn't you much rather have love from him? Because you were very close to getting it until this movement that you just did. Mm. Lubinger's smile was twisted, his pupils dilated, the blood-red irises rimming them periodically expanding and contracting. Shinmore overflowed with purple light. I'm assuming it's potentially Shinmore feeding his anger right now. It was impossible to tell if he was controlling the sword or if the sword was controlling him. As Shinjin Chu observed Lobingho's disorientated, chi-deviated appearance, a bitter taste filled his mouth, and he couldn't bring himself to speak. Other than Tangchong Mountain, this world has thousands of things that immortal Master Shin values, said Jujilang. Are you going to destroy all of those as well? Yes, said Lobingho, smiling. Why not? He tilted his head, then suddenly exploded with rage. Shut him up. Mobe Jun heard these words, thought for a moment, and threw a punch at Jujulang's face. Tianlang Jun studied Lobingho, and pity flashed through his gaze. Shenmue has already invaded his mind. He sighed. He's gone mad. This was the one and only time since his first meeting with Lobingho that he looked something like a father. But Lobingho didn't notice at all, just nodded and smiled. Yes, I've gone mad. Upon hearing him admit to his lunacy, Shinjinchu's heart spasmed with a dull pain. Binghe, get away from that sword first, he said quietly. The further, the better. As he gently coaxed him, he secretly placed a hand on Shuya's hilt, the action concealed by his white sleeve. Lobinghe laughed. It's no use, Susan. You don't need to do this. The nicer you are to me, the more afraid I become. As he spoke, his right hand made a slight upward gesture. In an instant, Shinmore's purple chi overflowed. Zhujiang spat out a mouthful of congested blood. The punch a moment ago had only shut him up for a little while. He calmly said, Pitiful. Pitiful? Lubinghe muttered. That's right, I'm pitiful. It would be fine if it's out of pity too. Will Shizun stay by my side just this once? Tears rolled down Lobinghe's cheeks, and his pupils reddened as he gritted his teeth. Shizun, you've let go of me again and again. Always, always, anyone, anything. They all become a reason to abandon me, until sometimes you don't even need a reason. It's always like this. Suddenly, Shang Qinghua fell to the ground with a thud. Shen Jingchu also unconsciously grabbed onto the stone wall. The entire ground started to shake violently. Michael Ridge's descent had sped up. He's gone mad, Shidi, Yo Ching-yen said mildly. How will you deal with this? Lobinghe sneered and backed up 2 steps, then abruptly grabbed Shenmore's hilt. The tremors became stronger and stronger. Looking out through the hole in the cave, one could see innumerable mountain peaks of different heights juttering through the rolling clouds. Shen Qingqiu was about to pull out Shuya, when suddenly a blinding white light shone from beside him. Yu Jingyan had drawn his sword first. The sword's howl ripped through the drifting snow and dark purple chi. Shen Su had been unsheathed. Mo Beijun saw Yu Qingyan point the sword at Luo Winghe and stepped up to fight. Shen Su's spiritual energy surged, and Mo Beijun was blown away before they even made contact. Mo Beijun looked like he'd never expected that a day would come where someone would send him flying. In a flash he'd been thrown off Maigul Ridge, that expression still glued to his face. Shang Jinghua seemed frightened out of his wits. He snatched up a sword and rushed forward, but Shen Jingqiu quickly grabbed him. What are you doing? Shang Jinghua roared. He can't fly! With that he leapt down. Again, do I sense a side chip? A weird side chip, but a side chip nonetheless. Shenqingque braves the gales and flurries of snow to peer down through the rupture. He just managed to see Shang Qinghua riding a sword and catching Mo Beijun, still 300 meters above the ice. After confirming he wouldn't fall to his death, Shen Qingque didn't even give himself the time to sigh in relief and quickly turned back around. Bo Binghe and Ye Qingyan were already dueling. As expected, Bo Binghe's power was terrifying, but Shen Qingque hadn't expected a fully unsheathed Shin Su to be so powerful, capable of evenly matching a berserk Lo Binghe. Shen Qingque felt the fluctuating spiritual energy and demonic chi reverberate as they pressed on his eardrums and throat. He could tell that this cave would soon collapse and rushed to the stone wall. He grabbed Shinmore barehanded and, with a forceful heave, yanked it out. Um, okay, we have. I'm thinking a illustration of Shang Qinghua and Mo Beijun. Well, Shang Qinghua going to Mo Beijun's rescue. So let me quickly show that to you before we move on, because it is very nicely done. I can feel myself coming down with a bit of a cold, so I'm gonna maybe aim for page 310, and then depending on what the time looks like, I might just end it there for tonight so I can rest up my voice for Thursday. Um, okay. Although he'd extracted the blade, Michael Ridge's descent didn't slow. Lobinger saw the situation and moved to seize the sword. Yu Qingyan didn't give him the chance. Using the tip of Shensu's blade, he carved a dazzling trail visible to the naked eye, and an enormous barrier marked with complicated incantations and seals formed an invisible cage, trapping Lobinger within. Seeing that Shen Jingche had already acquired Shinmo, Yu Qingyan said sternly, "Go." How could he go in this sort of situation? Shen Jingche immediately shook his head and was about to toss Shinmo to Yu Qingyan when he felt something beneath him falter. It wasn't his legs that gave out, it was the ground. The cave had finally collapsed. Dun dun dun. This is kind of stressful. On Michael Ridge's second level, Shen Qingque dug Ye Qingyan out from beneath a pile of rubble. Sect leader, Shishong. Jiangmen Shishong. Ye Qingyan's complexion was slightly pale, and blood trickled from his lips. He swallowed once, as if forcing down a mouthful of warm blood. He opened his eyes and glanced at Shen Qingque. Where are the others? The internal structure of Michael Ridge was now like a disorientating honeycomb, with a cave after cave all connected. Shen Jingche gave his surroundings a once over. I don't see Master Wu Chen or Tianlanjin. They might have been buried here, or they might have tumbled with the piles of rubble down into the other caves. He turned his head back. Shishong, when did you get injured? Yu Qingyan didn't answer the question. Do you have Shenmo? Shen Jingche showed him the sword. Here, Baigu Ridge is still falling, but the merge has probably yet to finish. Shishong, take the sword, head down and destroy it. With Shen Jingche supporting him, Ye Qingyan slowly stood. And you? Of course, Shen Jingche would head back to look for Lu Binghe, but he avoided the question. Shishong, this injury of yours isn't normal. Exactly what happened? Yu Qingyan provided an irrelevant answer. Originally, I didn't want to, but in the end, I'm an impulsive person. Shen Qingqi thought those words strange, but he didn't have the mind to think about them carefully, and continued to walk while supporting him. Shishong, can you still walk? You head down first. Destroy the sword and have Mo Shidi heal you. Leave Lobingho to me. As Shen Qingqi was supporting him, Liu Qingyan could stand with some difficulty, all while dripping fresh blood onto the ground. I'm wondering if he kind of had technically some kind of chi deviation but didn't tell anyone, because he did cut his meditation and cultivation short that one time. But I don't know. Thinking he was fine, Shen Qingqi let go, but once he did, Ye Qingyan didn't remain standing for long before he unexpectedly collapsed again. Shen Qingqi blanched with shock, then hurried to help him up again. Jiangmen Shishong. Jiangmen Shishong? After a brief examination, even with his superficial medical knowledge, he could tell that Ye Qingyan's current condition was horrible. Ye Qingyan's expression was vacant, like he hadn't heard anything Shen Qingqi said. However, those times at Jinlan City and during Lobingho's siege of the mountain, I kept calm and took the bigger picture into account. Thinking back on it, it would have been better to be impulsive. At the sight of him so drowsy and about to fall asleep, Chen Qingqi itched to pinch Ye Qingyan hard on the spot above his upper lip to wake him up, but he didn't dare overstep, so he could only yell in his ear and stop him from passing out. Shishong, wake up. You weren't wrong. Ye Qingyan closed his eyes and shook his head. He drew a breath, then another violent coughing fit befell him, causing Shen Qingqi to jump in terror. Blood flowed out incessantly with the coughs. With difficulty he said, "Return Shunsu to its sheath for me." Shen Qingqi hurriedly dropped down next to him. Shunsu's blade was still emitting a blinding white light. He returned the sword to its sheath, then held it out to Ye Qingyan. I wonder if, we have Shun Mo, so I can't help but wonder if Xuan Su is the counterweight to Shun Mo. It kind of was giving me that vibe. He returned the sword to its sheath, then held it out to Ye Qingyan. At this, Ye Qingyan's complexion finally improved somewhat, and the most arduous of his breaths eased. He stared at the hand Shen Qingqi had used to handle Shunsu in a daze, then, instead of taking it, said, "If I perish here, you must bring Shunsu back to Jian Peak for me." Shen Qingqi was shocked. "What did you say? Perish?" Ye Qingyan's injuries were so severe that he was likely to die? Shinsu is incredibly powerful, but I never drew it against enemies, Ye Qingyan said. "You must have attempted to guess why." Shen Qingqi nodded. Not only had he attempted, many people had. "Shensu is my life. His life force? I'm assuming?" said Ye Qingyan. "Do you understand what this means?" Shen Qingqi absolutely didn't, but he knew that it definitely wasn't just a figure of speech for loving your sword more than your own life. He also knew that what Ye Qingyan's next words would without a doubt be a secret that he never told anyone before. Sure enough, Ye Qingyan said, "Every time I draw Shunsu, it consumes my life force." "Oh, that's heavy." "That is cruel. Damn." As soon as these words were said, Shen Qingqi felt like the Shunsu he held instantly became 1,000 times heavier. No wonder Shunsu never left its sheath. No wonder Ye Qingyan never drew his sword. unless as a last resort. Shishong, you this was because of chi deviation? Shen Qingche said, stunned. By using his life force to channel his spiritual energy, he bound his life to a sword. If not due to a terrible accident during cultivation, in which he'd entered a chi deviation, why else would Yu Qingyan cultivate this kind of unnatural path? Yu Qingyan slowly said, at age 15 I entered Chongding Peak, my heart preoccupied and desperate for success. I'm thinking we're about to get the reveal that he is the person who Shen Qingche originally, well, Shen Jian? Like, he's the person whose body this originally was. That mysterious figure with the face that couldn't be seen. Um, I failed in my ventures to become one with the sword, falling instead into this state, a state contrary to my initial goals, which left me with untold lifelong regrets. As he spoke, the visage of colour his coughing had brought to his face suddenly vanished without a trace. Shen Jingqi hurried to interrupt him. Don't talk any more. This isn't the time to speak of this. I'll take you to Mushidi first. The two of them walked several painful steps before Ye Qingyan suddenly said in a low voice, I'm sorry. Shen Qingqi didn't understand why he was apologizing. Ye Qingyan had never wronged him in any way. If anything, it was he who should be sorry, always slacking off and messing around. He had even dumped a mountain of trouble on Ye Qingyan, forcing him to take responsibility and bear the headache of cleaning up his messes. But Ye Qingyan's next words would shake Shen Qingqi to the core. I'm truly sorry. Even his voice trembled. Even though I wanted to return as soon as possible, even though I wanted to get you immediately, I made a mess of things instead. You were right, in the end, I'm an impulsive person. After that, Shizun destroyed all the tendons and bones and meridians in my body, then shut me inside Lingxi caves for more than a year. My entirety was broken down, to be rebuilt anew. I screamed, I yelled, but it was no use. For an entire year, inside that pitch-black cave, no matter how crazed I became, how hysterical, no one listened closely to what I said. No one let me out. I pushed myself as hard as I could, but by the time I returned, Shin Manor had already been destroyed for some time. Okay, so there is the final confirmation. From deep within Shen Jingqi's mind came the sound of something tearing. In that instant, all of Ye Qingyan's past ardent concerns, his wordless protectiveness, all kinds of scenes, all manner of details, connected within his mind like a merry-go-round, clear beyond compare. No wonder, no matter how Shen Jingqi dug his own grave, the sect leader never made life difficult for him, and instead remained infinitely forgiving, infinitely patient. No wonder the rescuer Shen Jie had been waiting for never returned. Oh, this just got very heavy. I think I'm gonna take the 10-minute break here real quick, and then we'll come back at 10 past for at least another 10 pages. We'll see how it goes. Okay, we are back. See how the last few pages of the night treat us. Liu Qingyan, Shen Qingqie, Yue Qi, Shen Jue. So that's how it was. That's how it was? I really didn't mean to not return, said Liu Qingyan. Only it really is true that the world is pitiless, and so the two of us passed each other by. With each line he spoke, the more violently fresh blood surged. Shen Qingque supported him by the arm, pausing twice as long for every step they took. Don't talk anymore, he sighed. He already knew everything that happened next. Just let me finish speaking this one time, Ye Qingyan said resolutely. As you always say, sorry is nothing but an empty word, completely useless. I also never explained myself, but today I must let you hear. Not to ask for your forgiveness or sympathy, but because if I don't say it now, it will be too late. Really just trying to murder me with words here. Shen Qingque's heart became acrid, his eyes hot. Too late. It was already too late. Shen Jue was no longer here. Maybe he died, or maybe, like Xin Yun, his soul had been transported into another world. But no matter which, he would never again be able to hear Ye Qingyan's words. Never ever. The system sent out a series of notifications. Hidden Character 1, Zhijiang completion rate 100%. Hidden Character 2, Tiananjin completion rate 100%. Hidden Character 3, Sui Xiang completion rate 100%. Plot hole filling target Shen Qingque completion rate 100%. Plot hole filling target 2 Ye Qingyan completion rate 100%. Met basic criteria for character completion. The system scan found no obvious logical gaps. Beat points per achievement plus 300. Total sum 1,500. Congratulations. By upgrading rather a lot of things to roast, you have unlocked the achievement. Readable if nothing else is available. We are almost at the end of the novel. Like, we only have one volume left, and we're only now at readable if nothing else is available. This is not good. Like, this is not a good rate we're going at. Satisfaction points at 0. In this situation, you can substitute B points when paying for drop cost of key items. Do you accept? The chime of positive notifications formed a cascade, brimming with a joyful atmosphere. Yet Qingque had never been more depressed. He said, "What's the point?" Exactly what was the system? What was the point of its existence? So he could know exactly how unfortunate these people were? So he could personally witness the most tragic ways the world could mess people up? Or so he could drive Lobinghe to insanity? Everyone said Lobinghe had gone mad. Even he himself had smiled and admitted it. Shenmue, which Lobinghe had finally managed to suppress after a million words of struggle in the original work, had gained the upper hand in the struggle and invaded Lobinghe's mind. This wasn't a result of one or two events, but a slow accumulation over time, until finally it had completely erupted. Numerous signs had long since made themselves apparent, but Shen Qingque had never noticed. Or perhaps he should say he'd never realized that Lobinghe was actually so insecure, to the point of having an inferiority complex. First, he thought Lobinghe was unbelievably cruel and evil. Then he thought Lobinghe was unspeakably strong and bright. Looking back, the symptoms of Shenmue's invasion of Lobinghe's mind had appeared as early as Zhaohua Monastery. When Lobinghe had heard his backstory, he'd received a massive shock. In his moments of greatest panic, he reached out to Shen Jingche, pleading for Shizun to leave with him. But Shen Jingche hadn't taken Luo Binghe's hand, and instead had made Luo Binghe leave alone first. At that time, Luo Binghe's psyche started to grow incredibly unstable. What it needed wasn't a path of safe retreat, but to be together with Shen Jingche. Even if he was trapped in Zhaohua Monastery and unable to retreat, even if he was surrounded and attacked by everyone present, either outcome was better than leaving alone. To Luo Binghe in that state of mind, having to leave alone was as good as being thrown away, like he had been when Su Shiyan willingly drank that poison. It was exactly as Luo Binghe himself had said. He wasn't forcing Shen Jingche to choose between two options, because he was completely certain he knew the answer, down to his very bones, that Shen Jingche would one day abandon him. Guys, don't get me wrong, I love the story, but this is not a very good foundation for a relationship. I really hope that it gets better. Mm. His entire mind had flooded with terror and anxiety from speculating over something yet to happen. How could he not have gone completely insane? Yuchingan's steps became increasingly unsteady to the point that he almost couldn't stand anymore. Shen Jingche had never seen the sect leader appear so weak. Yuchingan had always been uh, stolid and full of strength. I don't know that word. Even if he never spoke too much or too little, even if he lacked any aggressiveness and was gentle and affable, he was also extremely dependable and dignified. Now not only was he having difficulty walking, he even spoke more than usual. He liked he likely really thought he wasn't going to make it. Shinjinchi was almost dragging him along by this point. As he walked he said, Jiangmen Shishong, hold on. You absolutely can't pass out. Everything will be alright in a moment. Ye Qingyan smiled bitterly. All these years you've never mentioned the past and only ever called me Jiangmen Shishong. Are you determined to never call me Qi Ge again? The bones and veins in Shen Jingche's sword hand bulged. Ye Qingyan wanted to hear Shen Jie call him Qi Ge, but it wasn't Shen Jie. He dredged up the original flavor's cold and hateful energy, then adamantly refused. I won't. He could not raise a flag. In dramas and novels, whenever a character achieved their final wish and finished speaking their last words, they immediately kicked the bucket, their desires satisfied. I mean, that's a fair reason to try and hold off. I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear anything you just said. Shen Jingqie went on harshly. Hold on, keep going. Ye Qingyan closed his eyes and sighed. Xiaojie, don't call me that. That's what he thought. He didn't dare think about how Ye Qingyan had felt in the original work after Luo Binghe chopped off Shen Jingqie's legs and sent them to Changchong Mountain sect in a brocade box. Ugh. He didn't dare imagine what kind of emotions Ye Qingyan had held as he had walked unflinchingly into Luo Binghe's trap, despite knowing there was no return, until he was pierced with 10,000 arrows. I can't be crying right now. To think that a lifetime's single moment of loyalty actually had to be repaid with so much. Ooh. And Ye Qingyan hadn't even been able to tell Shen Jingqie the reason why he hadn't come to rescue him. The Shen Jingqie had been full of resentment and terror, who'd helped Luo Binghe lead him into a trap. Why hadn't he told him earlier? It was just like Shen Jingqie and Luo Binghe. Why hadn't he told him earlier? If he hadn't been so cavalier, so full of conjecture, Luo Binghe might never have darkened. He could have remained the sweet and bashful disciple he'd been at Tangchong Mountain Peak. Even if they backed up 10,000 steps, back to when he'd been forced to shove Lobing into the endless abyss. Shen Jingche could have used a completely different method to achieve his goal. He might not even have needed to thank. I'm assuming that's a spelling mistake. To think about it. Only now did Shen Jingche understand that if he had wanted Lobing to go down into the abyss, it was very possible that if he had but said the word, Lobing would have obeyed and jumped. Shen Jingche had never considered the possibility. He hadn't believed that a person could be so foolish, that Lobing could be so obedient. But the truth was that Lobing really was that foolish and that foolish and that obedient. Shen Jingche had twisted and turned, taken all sorts of detours. He'd taken the far road and become utterly lost, not knowing how to proceed. Full of regrets and sorrows, he could only sigh, if only I had known. But in this world, there was no if only I had known. As they turned past the cavern, Shen Jingche suddenly saw two figures caked in dirt. As soon as he made out the two round and shiny bald heads, he blurted out, Master Wu Cheng, Master Wu Wang. The short monk who was carrying someone much taller than himself was Master Wu Cheng. One of his wooden prosthetic legs was missing. Walking alone on a single leg was already difficult, and on top of that he had no hands to spare for a palms-together greeting. Refusing to be discourteous, he chose to recite some extra sutras instead. Piglo Chen, we finally found you. What happened to sect leader Ye? Ever since he closed his eyes, Ye Qingyan had been drowsily leaning against Shen Jingche. Shen Jingche said, Zhang Shishong was struck on the head by a rock. What about Master Wu Wang? Injured by that Tianlanjin's demonic qi and unconscious for now. With the cave's collapse, those demons completely disappeared. Shen Jingche pulled out Shuya and handed it over. Master, can I ask you to take my Shishong and Master Wu Wang and leave my goal reached by sword? That's gonna be a very fine balancing act if he has to carry two people on his back while balancing on one single leg. What about Piglo Chen? Asked Wu Chen. I will deal with my own disciple, Shen Qingche said concisely. If Piglo Chen is willing to calmly face him, there could be nothing better, Wu Chen said respectfully. I'm ashamed of myself, said Shen Jingche, but I wish to resolve these affairs before something irreparable occurs. I leave Zhangmen Shishong to Master Wu Chen. After you head down, please take him to Qian Tao Peak's Wu Shidi. The Shen is deeply grateful. Wu Chen put down Wu Wang and received Shuya with both hands. He bowed, then suddenly said, Inner demons arise due to obsession. Okay, so just a quick note that I'm gathering here is Shinmo, which obviously is the name of Lobing's sword, also means inner demons. So, you know, the direct correlation there. Shen Jingche is startled. Is Master trying to say that to eliminate his inner demons, we must cure his obsession? But Wu Chen shook his head. If it were curable, it wouldn't be an obsession. I thought so too. Shen Jingche returned the bow, then spun around. Who'd made him the object of Lobing's obsession? Xiang Qinghua, and you, and Lobing. Like, I think all of you had a part to play in this. Okay, let's see where we go. The interior of my Gold Ridge had collapsed into a complete mess. Before, there had been hundreds upon thousands of caves, sprawling and interconnected, but now half of them had crumpled with tremors, and fallen rocks forming barricades everywhere. Shen Jingche wove through the remains, struggling to navigate the ruins. Suddenly, from within a giant pile of rubble, there came a feeble wisp of demonic energy. Shen Jingche called out without thinking, Lobing He? It couldn't be that Lobing He was trapped here. having been sealed by Yuchingen's binding technique. Could it? Nah, I think it's gonna be Tianlanjin probably. He leapt over the pile and lifted the topmost stone slab. Underneath was a stretch of battered green scales. Small, loose pebbles tumbled off them as they rose and fell weakly. Zhizhelang's snake form was coiled into a small fortress, and Tianlanjun lay in the middle, sheltered within the watertight hold. Okay, so 2-for-1 sale here. The latter's body had deteriorated even further, to the point it seemed his head would fall off at any moment. Ooh! He opened his eyes and looked at Chen Jingque, then even had the cheer to greet him. Piglo Chen, how is the situation with you two? Said Chen Jingque. I'm long since used to this, but Zhizhelang isn't doing too well. Not doing too well indeed. Those two huge yellow eyes, once always as bright as lanterns, had begun glazing over, though there was still life in them. Quite a few of his snake scales had been scraped off, leaving stretches of red and black wounds that patterned his entire body. Gross. He reached to grab the hilt, then yanked the. Shen Jingque helped remove the stones crushing the snake's tail, then realized that Zhang Yang was still stabbed into Zhizhelang's body. He reached to grab the hilt, then yanked the sword out. Blood loss meant very little to demons. Rather, having Jinglang and its powerful spiritual energy stabbed into him would have done far more harm. Hasn't Piglo Chen always preferred to ignore him? Asked Tianlanjin. Who says I've always ignored him? Said Chen Jingque. It's just that sometimes communicating with him is difficult. How is he? Tianlanjin stroked the snake's triangular head with the stump of his arm and didn't answer. Instead he asked, what will Piglo Chen do about the situation after this? Destroy the sword, of course. Shenmore's invasion has already reached Lobinger's soul, binding their lives together. If you destroy the sword now, won't that be the same as killing him? Then I'll think up another method, Shen Jingque said resolutely. Even if you're unable to stop the merge in time? One problem at a time, my good sir. Shen Jingque drew in a breath. If I can't make it, then that's that, he said irritably. We should do everything we can first, then worry about the rest later. At that, another smile finally appeared on Tianlanjin's face. He sighed and lamented. As expected, I can't bring myself to hate humans. Shen Jingque didn't know how to respond to this line of his. It was joyful, yet seemed far too heavy. I can't be crying over frickin' Tianlanjin. I really need to calm down. What about Lobinghe? He asked, to change the topic. Have you seen him? I thought Piglo Chen knew, Tianlanjin said, bemused. Hasn't he been behind you this whole time? Ooh, that's a creepy thought. Shen Jingque's hair stood on end, and he slowly turned his head. Sure enough, Lobinghe stood behind him, eyes fixed unswervingly on his back. Exactly when had he begun standing there? Or perhaps the question was, exactly when had he begun to follow Shen Jingque? Lobinghe smiled. Shuzhen, give me the sword. Shen Jingque maintained his composure and raised Shenmore. You can take it yourself. Lobinghe took a step towards him, then suddenly stopped. The corner of his mouth twitched, and his shoulders began to shake. Shen Jingque held the sword horizontally in front of him. What's wrong? Lobinghe gritted his teeth. Get lost. Shen Jingque hadn't managed to respond when Lobinghe pressed a hand to his temple and lashed out with a spiritual blast. Get lost, all of you. Don't touch him. Get lost. Those words weren't meant for Shen Qingque, and the spiritual blast didn't strike him either. Instead, it grazed his shoulder, blasting apart the already pitted cave wall behind him. Tian Nanjun offered a friendly reminder. Shizun, Shinmo conjures illusions. Even without him saying so, Shen Qingque had about guessed as much. At present, Lo Binghe clearly saw things no one else could. From his hand came haphazard blasts of spiritual energy and demonic chi, and he specifically attacked the space around Shen Qingque, engaging in brutal combat with non-existent enemies. The mountain began to shake again, clusters of rocks rolling down. Shen Qingque looked at the two people by them, who could be fairly described as the sick and elderly. Binghe, he yelled, come here. Though Lo Binghe looked somewhat dazed, he was still very obedient. Sure enough, he began to follow Shen Qingque. The one in front dashed with the wind beneath his heels, while the one in the back seemed to drift like a wraith, though he somehow didn't fall behind in the slightest. In the middle of the chase, the system sent a notification. Lo Binghe's base anger points 300, multiplied by Shinmo's coefficient of 10. The current value is 3000. Where's the key item? Shen Qingque roared. Hurry the hell up. The jade guanyin. The jade pendant. Give it here quickly. Greetings. The key item is currently loading. We recommend deploying another tool in the interim. Loading? The hell? What other tools are there? Show me. Gentle reminder the small scenario pusher luxury edition that you recently upgraded has yet to be used. I don't trust the small scenario pusher at all. Shinmo Inner Demons is also basically a metaphor for psychological. Yeah, no. I mean, that much I didn't think needed clarifying. Shen Qingque abruptly braked. In all honesty, to this day, he still hadn't figured out exactly what kind of doodad the small scenario pusher was, let alone how it worked. But based on a single experience with it before, it really did seem to be quite effective. Yeah, okay, sure, let's go with that. Shen Qingque gritted his teeth. Give it here. Let this great one see just how epic and thrilling the luxury edition is. Bring it on. Guys, I'm genuinely concerned for Shen Qingque's body right now. Like the last time his clothes were ripped off. Oh no. He just forcefully slammed the confirm button when the ground beneath his feet collapsed again, and as he fell, Shen Qingque had only one thought. You call that a small scenario pusher? It's a large scenario bulldozer. However, even after a long downward tumble, while rocky shadows rolled towards him from overhead, none of the rocks from the landslide smashed into him. Someone was shielding him from above. Lo Binghe was completely out of his mind, his senses muddled, but even at a time like this, he used his own body to block the rocks from Shen Qingque. With a backhanded shove, he flung the boulders that had struck his back aside like they weighed nothing. He stared blankly down into Shen Qingque's eyes, and for a brief second, clarity seemed to flash through his pupils. But after a dazed blink, the murk returned. The dark red mark of sin crept over his forehead, expanding outward until marks covered the entirety of his snow-pale face, then continued spreading down his neck. Shinmo had fallen beside them, and it seemed to respond to the marks on Lo Binghe's body. It glowed and dimmed, its purple light and black miasma circulating endlessly. Shizun? Lo Binghe mumbled. Said Shen Qingque. Blood trickled down Lo Binghe's forehead, and his voice seemed to quaver slightly. Shizun, is it really you? Is it real this time? Asked Lo Binghe. Didn't you leave with the others just now? I saw you go. I won't leave. said Shen Jinchu. Lobingho slowly lowered his body and pressed his face into the gap of Shen Jinchu's collar. Shuzhen, it hurts, he said in a tiny voice. My head hurts. The tone sounded both like he was acting cute and like it really did hurt, very much so. Shen Jinchu slowly reached out with both arms, wrapping them around Lobingho's shoulders. Then he gently patted Lobingho while soothing him like one would a child. Good boy. It'll stop hurting soon. If I'm good, it'll stop hurting, and Shuzhen won't leave me alone ever again, said Lobingho. It'll stop hurting in a moment. I don't believe you, Lobingho said quietly. Suddenly his expression Suddenly he exploded and yelled, I don't believe you, I don't. Seeing that he was having another episode, Shen Jinchu grabbed his shoulders and abruptly lifted himself up, head raising. The angle wasn't right. Teeth clashed against teeth, making pain radiate through him. Lobingho's lips were sealed, but his eyes continued to stare forward blankly. He blinked once, then twice. Shen Jinchu's eyes were also open. As their wide-eyed gazes remained fixed on each other, Shen Jinchu internally thought this extremely unsettling. Well, I can tell you for one, I was not expecting an abrupt kiss in the middle of all this. After a while of just staring at each other, eyes completely unclosed, he finally gave in and shut his eyes first. With a flutter of his lashes, he pressed forward and deepened the kiss. His teeth and mouth were still ringing and numb from the collision. In truth, this act couldn't be called kissing at all, but gnawing. However, Lobingho was clearly very pleased with said gnawing. He bit all over Shen Jinchu's lips like they were pieces of candy. His breaths grew shorter and shorter. Suddenly he pressed Shen Jinchu down against the ground. With a ripping noise, Shen Jinchu's outer robes were torn to pieces. Shen Jinchu moved to strip his remaining clothes himself. Excuse me, Shen Jinchu, are you all there? I'm genuinely shocked that he would escalate the situation right now, in the middle of everything that's going on. He pulled and tugged, sliding his pants down below his knees, stripping his torso until only a loose inner robe remained, which slipped down to reveal one pale shoulder. Lubinga's hand ran along the collar and dipped inside. His entire body was searing hot, even more so than that time in the holy mausoleum, and his hand kneaded hard over Shenjichu's skin. Hot, in pain, and panicked, Shenjichu knew what would follow. He'd long since made up his mind. Now he consciously flipped himself over so that his back was to Lo Bing-ho. I don't know how to feel about this. I'm actually not liking it. Like, this just feels wrong. Like, it feels as if it's not consensual in a sense. Even though technically it is. It's kind of dubious, I suppose you could say. Though he had no experience with this kind of thing, he'd heard before that for the first time it was easier from the back, even though deep down he thought this position a little humiliating. He couldn't care about that much now. He'd done this out of consideration for Lobinger's conscience, but unexpectedly he was flipped back around. Lobinger jammed himself between Shenjinche's legs, his entire attention wrapped on Shenjinche's face. Only a few inches remained between them, their streaming breaths intermingling. Something blazing hot pressed against the dry entrance of Shenjinche's lower half. Okay. Its circumference a little terrifying, not unlike that of a full-sized ball. Okay. So we're just jumping into that. I was not at all prepared, and actually I was planning on stopping here. I really do need to because I can feel my voice going. um, yeah, I think we're just gonna have to save this for the next live because I don't know how long the scene is gonna go on for. Um, and I would much rather like feel like I'm paying full attention and my voice isn't running out. So I think we're gonna end it here for tonight. I know it's a bit early, but yeah, I will be seeing you guys again on Thursday for the final 30 pages, 30-ish pages of Scum Villian Volume 3. And then we're on to the rest of Volume 2 of Mordu. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you thought. Thank you so much for joining me. And I'll see you guys on Thursday. 再见。